The base is dropped on another edition of Soccer Down here. First one in a minute. Thanks for bearing with me. My sinuses still hate me. That's not breaking news. But they are at least a little less hateful today, so I'll take it. It's a step in the right direction. We've got a lot to talk about on an Overreaction Wednesday. Atlanta United's out of the CCL. We've got Jose Mourinho popping up in a new job faster than anybody expected. We have Chelsea and Real Madrid today. We have Pep Guardiola and Manchester City in the Champions League final. We've got stuff from South America that just continues to find new levels of crazy, and a few other things, some comments about post-game situations that we'll get into as well. John Nelson is here. Jarrett Smith is here virtually. Thanks for all of you being here as well. We got a ton of reactions before Mike Conti joins us at 10 o'clock. So, John, I don't know what direction you want to go. I figure this is going to be a rapid fire from the peeps side of things because I know you guys weren't able to do a salty takeaway last night. It's been one of those weeks around here where it's just chaos and things going on and breaking down on a regular basis. So why don't we just jump into the Twitter timeline?
Okay, so once again, I posed the question for folks to give their salty takeaways and their overreactions getting ready for this morning. So this will start with that post immediately after the match, and then when we get to folks who are chiming in this morning, I'll let you know when that transition happens.
Fair enough.
Here we go. Chris Hutchison, the Thunder and Lightning are the perfect accompaniment to the animal noises he was making during the match. So there was that. Jake Michaels. Can Jason please talk about our wingers? We have enough of a sample size now to admit they aren't good. Our attack is way below average. We've only played one good half of soccer in our past 6. Our attack is anemic in all caps. Without sharp progress with more rest, I'm officially concerned.
The wingers aren't good. I don't know. Everybody's harping on the wingers, so I guess they're right. I would disagree. I don't think it's just the wingers that are the problem. And watching the game last night, while not commentating on it or talking through it, I was able to just kind of watch and try to soak it in a little bit. And for me, it's not just the wingers. It's just the movement in the final third is not free-flowing. And it's something that's going to take a little bit of time, and it needs to happen faster because everything leading to the final third is good. The build-up is good. Are there teams that give you problems with building up through the back? Yeah, there always will be. That's just the reality of the game. But in general, this team builds up out of the back well. And when you build up out of the back well, you put yourself in good positions. It feels like there's not a focal point. There's not consistency with movement off the ball in the final third. It's not all on the wingers. It's frustrating. And I felt like one pattern you started to see emerge last night pretty consistently was trying to free up Brooks Lennon to deliver crosses. And a lot of times what they did in that was work the ball down the left, and either Bello or Moreno or sometimes Heinemann would pick the ball up around the edge of the final third, hit the big switch to Lennon. Lennon would put in the cross. There were 2 crosses that Joseph mistimed, and I was a little surprised by that because they were crosses that usually I think he buries. I think he just mistimed it. And I think both of those were ones that Eric Lopez was right behind it, and I think he thought it was going to be played by Joseph. He blinks, it gets through everybody. But that was one very specific pattern that I saw a lot. I agree with what Michael Ruiz just said on the Twitch pitch. The build-up is slow. It's not the build-up that's slow. It's the final third that's slow. The build-up can be slow. We talked about it coming in. I don't know where the idea was that Gabriel Heinze was going to be just kick it long and chase and run. That's not how he's going to play it because he is big on the organization and building up the right way. Sometimes that takes more time. It's when you get into the attacking half and especially the final third that it's got to speed up. It's got to be faster. If you're going to change the point of attack there, it's got to be faster. I feel like Lennon is the one who is getting it the fastest and understanding his role in it and what works. And I don't see the hesitation out of him in the same way. The dribblers, I mean, this is something that you're going to have to understand because I don't think it's going to change. Moreno, Barco, Mulroney, and I thought Mulroney struggled last night. I thought Jake really did get in his head a little bit. And that's kind of where it feels like for me, this team is in the final third. They're thinking too much about where to be and what to do rather than playing freely once you get there. And that's the missing element. This is something that managers have talked about, as Pep Guardiola's talked about. You've got to stay organized to get to the final third in the proper way. And then you've got to play. And that's where you can play, and that's where you can express yourself, and that's where you can have some freedom. The backing of that, though, is when you lose the ball, then you immediately try to win it back. That's the secondary part. Last night, at times, it was too rigid. And this is something Gabriel Heinze has talked about all season, I think. You know, he talked about it second half against New England. You know, it was too rigid in the first half. Second half, it freed up a little bit more. When it frees up, there's going to be opponent or opportunities for the opposition. There's just that's the reality. That's the trade-off you're making. But they're not finishing their chances, not just in the back of the net, but finishing plays. And when you don't do that, you do give up more counter opportunities. They have to be more instinct in the final third, less thought. And look, it takes time. I think being concerned at this point in the season, 4 CONCACAF games, 3 MLS games is early. I do. I don't think it's about the quality of the players. I do think there's a question about, and he's not healthy at the moment, but Jurgen Damm, Jake Mulroney, that right side, who is it going to be? What gives you the best opportunity? Because I don't think it's been settled. I know a lot of people are banging on about Moreno on the left. His numbers are not nearly, I think, what some people have expected his performances to be. They can be better, and he can go to goal more, I think, which is the thing I'd like to see. But I'm not as worried about Moreno. I'm worried about that right side because it's not settled. It's not just the wingers. That feels like that's the cause du jour. It's the whole attack in the final third. It's just a little too rigid, and that's got to change.
Pierce, along your point that you were just discussing, Jason says that Eric Lopez can play. Lennon should play winger in a pinch over Dom.
And he could. And that's not a crazy thought. If it can't get settled on that side between Dom and Mulroney, then yeah, Lennon could play that role, and that would open up the right back position for Ronald Hernandez, who we haven't seen much of just yet. Maybe Anton Walk sliding over to right back. He's not going to be quite as bold going forward. There's different ways you can spin it, and Lennon could be a possibility there. It's just, I think the other element of it for me before I stop talking and Jarrett starts, sorry, Jarrett, I've been a little long-winded. It's been a couple days. You are creating chances with Lennon on the right side without him being the right winger. But you're not getting other things from the right winger if Lennon's going to be your primary, option over there to deliver. That right winger's got to come inside or drop off and sit a little bit or find another place to be to make the team positioned better in the final third and in the attacking half. And that part doesn't feel like it's happened yet. The team's still learning, and they're not there yet. And it needs to pick up, but it's still the team that I think has talent. And I think Gabriel Heinze knows what he's doing here. It's not there yet, and it needs to be better.
What do you think, Jarrett?
I think that Gabriel Heinze has taken teams with less overall talent and performed well with them. And I feel like this is something we talked about in preseason that, it's going to be really tempting, whether good or bad in the first 5 or 6 games, to make your snap judgments and to make your rulings, and it's a dangerous thing because you're installing a new system, and not just a new system. I think you're installing a new mentality with this team, because if everybody's still going to harp on everything that happened last year with people, and I get that. I mean, it was rough in the second half of 2020. You're not getting much time to practice. You've got an interim coach. So guys are healthy or not healthy at times. PT leaves, really what felt like a transfer that developed, it felt like in 10 minutes from rumor to gone. So you're installing a lot here. I think more importantly, you're installing a mentality here. And that's going to be tough. And we've already seen it with a couple games this year of you're going to see adversity. How do you deal with it? It's going to be something you have to grow and deal with. But those first 5 or 6 games, you can't really, I don't think you can make a snap judgment because of all the things you're doing here. This is what you wanted in terms of bringing somebody in who's going to kind of shake things up a bit. You're going to play a style. This is the style that people wanted. I think was that high pressing style. You're still going to have the ball because this is a thing that, you ran into at different points in 2018 where teams were saying, hey, Atlanta, you can have the ball. We're not going to let you press and force the counter. And you had to learn how to play with the ball, and you had to learn how to, actually build things and be productive with the ball at your feet in the final third. I think that's going to come. I think Gabriel Heinze has shown in his past stops that he's able to get the most out of guys in those situations. And I want to see what happens when you have more time with these guys, especially now that Champions League is over. I think now you turn a weather eye to the league and you focus on what's going on in league. And man, you can look at all the teams that have played in CONCACAF Champions League. You did pretty damn well compared to a lot of them. The CCL hangover is real, and I think now you put this behind you. You go play a Miami team this weekend, and you see what happens then. And I believe you don't have a midweek game next week.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
You get 6 or 7 days to rest, and I think that's going to be a good time to really get back on the training ground and you'll really put your nose to the grindstone in a way where you don't have to worry about Champions League for the next few months. The rest of the year, you don't have to worry about that. Focus on the league. And I want to see what happens when you don't have to travel in the middle of the week for emotionally charged Champions League games. Because I guarantee you, Philadelphia, if Portland and whoever the hell else is still in Champions League, I don't know. Whoever the hell, I can't remember who else is in Champions League still. Thank you, Columbus. If Portland Columbus get through, I guarantee you they're going to have hangovers too.
They've already had them.
Philadelphia ain't won a game yet in the league. I mean, look where it's gotten them. It's got them in the semifinal of CONCACAF Champions League. So you will take that trade-off. We've talked about that for 2-3 years now, that you will take that trade-off. Toronto sure as hell took that trade-off in 2018, where you get to make a run at CONCACAF Champions League. Yeah, you're going to prioritize that because the hangover's real. It's exhausting.
Yeah, that's, I think, the reality here, and where I was honestly a little surprised at some of the negative reactions from last night. And even Saturday to a lesser extent. Like, you've played a lot of minutes here. You needed to get these games under your belt. Heinze's talked about you got to make mistakes, you got to learn from the mistakes, and you hadn't been in a chance to make a lot of mistakes because you hadn't played a lot early. So now in the last 3 matches, let's go to the last 4. Chicago, team at home, you beat. You should have beaten them. That's a win that you should have won. The home leg against Philadelphia, you should have won. You played 45 that looked like a winning team, and that was the best 45 I think the team has played. You got nothing to show for it, and you got punished. Okay? You got punished by a good team, but that's at home. You shouldn't lose that. If you get a goal in the first half last week, I think Atlanta goes through. I do. You go to New England, who was an Eastern Conference finalist last year, and you're in their building, and you lost a close game. There was a very questionable decision. It doesn't change everything. The quality of play, I think New England was slightly better, but they didn't dominate you. You were there, and you were tired, and you had the issue with the injuries. You lost to a team that was in the Eastern Conference final last year on the road, and you drew the Supporter Shield team on the road in the second leg. Philadelphia didn't sit back. They didn't play a defensive game here. They took opportunities to waste time when they presented themselves. But again, anybody would do that, and we'll talk more about that. You've played a couple of good teams here, and you're not quite at their level yet. That's okay. That's not earth-shattering news at the moment. It's okay. But now I think you're seeing some of the things that do need to be better. And look, the thing you got to understand too, and I think Byrne kind of hit on this in the Twitch pitch, and I think it's an important point. The positional play idea, the way of playing that style, Frank de Boer had it, Gabriel Heinze had it, but they interpret it differently. So players that were brought in 2019, 2020 might not be the best fit for this version of positional play. You don't really know that until you see it, because it's not this dramatic difference in, okay, we're changing everything about the way the team even thinks. No, you're changing elements of it. And yeah, you're probably going to see that there's some players you need to, or some positions that you might need to upgrade on in the summer. And you figure that out as you get there. That's the process of a club, because you've got to get the philosophy down, you've got to get the style of play down, and you see the spots where you got to get better. And if that happens, that happens. That's just kind of part of this, because you can have it in your head, this is what I think the best 11 is. And you can get it against one team, and it looks great. You can get it against another team, not so much. Okay, what do we need differently? Do we have that? Let's try this guy. Not quite. Let's try this guy. Okay, that works. We're good. Then you find another position that you need something else. It's just part of the process. But you've had games against good teams that I think you've learned a lot. Now you're going to go on the road again to Miami. And you're going to get a Montreal team that's been a surprise at home. And you're going to have to be ready for that one. The Miami game is an interesting one, because they've been better than I expected. I still think they have some defensive issues, but you've had offensive issues. So, where does that fall? I think you can deal with their attack, but can you get what you need out of it? Because while you have created chances, except in these last couple of games on the road against good teams, you're not scoring a lot of goals from the run of play. And that's something that has to change if you're going to get past being, because I would say at this point, Atlanta is a average team on the field in quality in the Eastern Conference. I think they have the talent to be above average or right at the elite level. They're not there yet. Okay, that's fine. That's the process. I think it was the process in 2017. I think it was the process in 2019 with managers at the beginning of their stints. It's got to continue to get better. And now I think you've kind of learned where it truly is at the moment, and you've got to finish May strong before you get into that June break.
Michael Head, after the match last night, says, I don't like looking at a 4-match losing streak. Heinze lost this tie last week, and we got into it this morning. He says, what can we do to create goals?
Hold on. It's not a 4-match losing streak. What?
He said,
no, it's not a 4-match losing streak. You lost the home leg, and then you lost to New England, and you drew last night. I mean, that's so it's not even a streak at the moment. You drew last night,
right?
Okay.
I
was confused.
He says,
I'm hopped up on medicine. I'm just trying to make sure I know what's going on here.
No worries. To the point that we've been talking about this morning, he says, what can we do to create goals? Joseph has no space. We don't seem to have a secondary scorer. Maybe I am overreacting, but geez, 2020 was not that long ago.
Sure. But this is a very different team. I think to say this team's playing like the 2020 version with no Joseph, I would thoroughly disagree with that. I'm not seeing that at all. I'm seeing the team get close, but not being able to figure it out in the final third. And yeah, Joseph's not Joseph yet. I hoped he'd be further along by now. He's not. He's not. He had, again, a couple of crosses that I thought were on point yesterday that he mistimed the leap for the header. And I think there's one that he was angry with himself about. I mean, it happens. I think what you're seeing at the moment, because the threat is mostly coming from the wide positions and you're trying to work the ball wide, and that's good, except it's becoming a little one-dimensional. So now it's time to start adding layers. Now it's time to break down video and show Moreno and Mulraney and Dom when he's healthy. Okay, here you are in the situation. Here's what you did. You took it to the end line, you put in a cross. Here's what else was there for you. You could have played a 1-2 with Barco or Heinemann. You could have dribbled inside and looked for Joseph on a 1-2. You could have kept going to goal yourself. It's becoming a little predictable on that side. And when you're trying to implement a style of play and you're very focused on doing certain things and certain principles, Jarrett, like, that's obvious. It's going to become predictable because you're trying to drill those things in. Now's the time that I think we get that, and they can do that. Can they do more to open the game up?
I kind of liken it to installing a playbook in live action where you don't have everything. You don't have everything in the playbook accessible to you right away. You have to kind of work your way up to what you've got and what you can do. I mean, hell, you watch Philadelphia play. Jim Curtin's been there for a while. Jim Curtin has installed things in a way that people know what to do in that system. You bring guys in, and there's a culture, and there is a mentality, and there is an idea of what you can do about what you're going to do and how you can present different looks, how you can make different decisions. And you've got a mixture of young guys and veterans in there, even with losing guys like Aronson in the window. I mean, you're able to put guys in there who can, even if they don't provide the same consistent level of excellence, they know what to do and they know how to support it. I think it's just a matter of again, it comes back to, and I know no one wants to hear it. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's a generalization on everybody, but you do kind of have to wait for it to get installed. And the only way to do that is live action, live rounds, out there playing in the middle of games and intense games. And you'll get another intense game this weekend. Don't expect the Miami game to be a walk in the park. I mean, I expect it to be intense. I expect there to be some chippiness in there. I expect guys to kind of carry a chip on their shoulder. They should be mad about this tie because it does feel like one that if you score in the first half and you're able to put one past Andre Blake in the first leg, I think you're in really good shape in that one. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you'll feel like, hey, this is one that we let slip away because we didn't execute in the final third in the first leg, and then we let our heads get away from us in the second half of the first leg, and now we're out of it. So yeah, I expect them to be kind of fired up about that. Go take it out on Miami.
Yeah, I thought the fight was good last night. I was honestly more positive about it than I was negative. I know you're shocked. I'm the sunshine pumper. I get it. But I was happier about the performance last night than I was in New England. Philadelphia is just a good team. And you made it difficult for them. You made them suffer. You got them to the point that they were time wasting a lot, and there were a lot of shenanigans and stuff. And Gabriel Heinze was angry about it, and Jim Curtin was angry that Gabriel Heinze was angry about it. And cool, they're going to play each other this season, and that's going to be fun in regular season play.
And y'all were angry that Jim Curtin was angry about Gabriel Heinze being angry.
Oh, I forgot about that part. Sorry.
Well, everybody was. Oh my God, the entire league was just eating that up with a spoon.
Yeah, it's good. It's fine.
Yep.
I have no problem with it. Drama's drama. And, Sergio Santos was embarrassing, in my opinion, with his time wasting. I thought it was way over the top. He probably needs some CONCACAFing classes. There were others that were time wasting, which is normal. But, Jim Curtin's right when he says that teams do it when they have a lead, and you know that, and everybody does it, Atlanta United included. It's part of the game. I thought Santos took it over the line. And where the incident first started with the two of them was when Santos was being subbed, and he did the kind of ultimate CONCACAFiness, and I know it happens in other confederations too, where he then acted like he was hurt when he saw his number on the board and sat down. That's ridiculous. That's way over the top. And Heinze called it out. And there's no point in defending it. You kind of just shrug because you know it's the thing. And you know teams are going to do it. You know players are going to do it. The referees have to add that time back on. I was impressed with the fight last night because they were tired. They weren't able to press as effectively as they wanted. Philadelphia didn't also try to test it a ton either. You did really go for it here because it wasn't as much of a 3 center back setup as you did last time against Philadelphia, which, again, worked really well. That first half, you dominated it. You just didn't get a goal. You went for it. You had, one more player going forward than what you had last time, and you fought. You fought. Ultimately, you drew with a good team who had an advantage, and yes, could take advantage of that scoreline coming in. But I think you showed some good things here. And you did it without Ezequiel Barco. And for some people, that doesn't mean anything. If you pay attention to the way this team plays, it means something. And you did that without him. So you saw some things last night that, in my opinion, bode well. But you've got to have more creativity, more diversity of chance creation in the final third. That's where it feels like it's lacking for me. The rest of the play, getting to the final third, I'm good with.
Daniel Price after the match, she says, it was a good game. We lack whatever it is in the final third to get goals. It's still early in the season, but it still hurts to watch what has become the MO for Atlanta in CONCACAF. Played well, but it just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the reality. You gotta get over that hump in CONCACAF. There's just no way around it. It has to get better. You've had different things with the 3 seasons, but yeah, it's got to be better. You got to advance in CONCACAF. That's ultimately the mark of a top team in this region, and that's what Atlanta United wants to be. So you've got to find a way to deal with that. You had a draw this time around. You had Philly, which was not doing a home and away with a Club America or a Cruz Azul or a Monterrey. It was more manageable. Didn't mean it was easy, and it wasn't. And Philadelphia really stepped up, in my opinion. I think Philly showed you their quality getting through. And yes, because I know this has continued to be twisted over the last week, Atlanta outplayed Philly in the first 45 last week. And I think Philly wanted more control of the game. They didn't have it. They didn't have a lot of that against Atlanta. They were also able to adjust and deal with it. And last night they adjusted without Jose Martinez, which they might have to do for a while now after his ridiculousness from the weekend and trying to drop a bionic elbow on Tati Castellanos. Leon Flack, that was pretty good in that 6 role. They were good. They did everything they needed to do. You got a really strong performance from your goalkeeper in leg 1, which you need to get through some of these things. You got the goals against the run of play in game 1. That's what you need to get through these things, and you managed the second leg with the lead. Philadelphia did a really good job.
Christopher Mazak has a couple of player observations from last night. This is once again after the match, and I'll go player by player, so I'm going to stop after each one.
Okay.
Christopher says, Kubo was terrible, but on par with Joseph.
Kubo didn't really give you much last night. Going back to New England a little bit. Kubo, it's so weird. It's like, I feel like he's got a curse on him or something because he works hard and he gives you a lot of work off the ball, which is something you need, but he just can't produce anything. And I don't know why, because he's getting in the right positions and the ball's finding him at times since he came to Atlanta. It's just not happening. Joseph, I think he's completely out of sync. There was one cross from Lennon in particular that Joseph went up for, and I was like, goal. Like, I was ready to type goal, and he just mistimed it, and that was weird. That's not a knee injury to me, because it wasn't that he couldn't jump to it. It's just lack of playing and lack of sharpness, and that's got to improve. You just kind of have to play through it, which stinks, but if you're mistiming, headers, I don't know what else you can do.
Yeah. Jarrett Christopher says that Bello isn't as good as everyone says.
Jason, I could see it in your face. Go ahead.
I don't know what's wrong with George Bello is the thing. Can he be better? Yeah, that would make him an elite left back and a starter for the U.S. men's national team. He's not there yet. But I don't know what the complaint is on Bello, and I've never really understood it because this isn't new. He's a teenager who's still really good. one of the best left backs in Major League Soccer, in my opinion. I don't know what's wrong with him. I honestly have no idea. Just to say he's not as good as everyone thinks. I'm not really hearing everyone think he's great. I think he needs more credit. So I don't understand. Jared, go ahead on Bello.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess my thing with Bello is I think people have, and again, speaking for people can be dangerous. I think people have some expectation based on what they see of other young players around the league, and they're waiting for Bello to just absolutely light everything on fire because we've seen other teenagers do it. But it doesn't always work that way. He's also not playing in a strictly attacking role like a Caden Clark or like a Cowell. So I mean, it's a different animal. The thing I would like to see with Bello personally, I'd like to see him take guys on more, and he's done it. I would love to see it a little bit more, but you just have to see how he goes as he progresses through the season. I'm impressed with the fact that he's gotten stronger physically. That was something I think I've enjoyed watching, is seeing him being able to hold up to just the physical rigors of it. And if you want to put him on the wing, that's your prerogative. But I think we saw enough last year to know that George Bello is a really vastly improved left back defensively. They made some insane plays on the defensive side of the ball, and I think you like having him coming in from that left back role because he provides you something defensively. And then if you're going to be doing the undercutting and the underlapping in this system or the overlapping, however it happens, I think he has the skills to be dangerous in either one of those. Don't love the idea of running off a teenager this quickly.
Yeah, that's really strange. I'll give you a hot take. George Bello is doing more in MLS than Alphonso Davies did before he left. Alphonso Davies was not as impactful in MLS as George Bello has been. Go back and watch. Like, he had moments, absolutely, but he was wildly inconsistent.
I would say he had higher highs because some of his highs were
when he was playing as a winger.
Absolutely absurd.
When he was playing as a winger,
the overall average of the product, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, but I mean, Bello's a better defender at this point than Davies was at that point. Davies has gotten better, of course. Bello's got a lot of room to grow. That's the important point here. He's got a lot of room to grow. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. What's next?
Jackson Conway should be starting striker.
That's a bold one. I would have liked to have seen him. I was looking for him last night. I thought with the way you were getting crosses and just the way Philadelphia is structured, where they're pretty narrow, you're going to get crosses on Philadelphia. I would have liked to have seen Conway in those. I was a little surprised we didn't. I don't know the reasoning why. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen him last night. I don't know, because we haven't seen him at this level consistently or much at all. I don't know if he's the starting striker, but I'd like to see him get an opportunity for minutes in MLS and see where it goes.
Jarrett, what do you think about Jackson Conway?
That's kind of where I'm at. I was hoping it would be him last night instead of Kubo. Like 2 games ago, Kubo comes off the bench, and I remember vividly saying, "I don't know if I agree with this decision." And we were on the watch along, and then Kubo made me eat my words and had pretty good 30-minute run, 25-minute run. And you'd run it out there again yesterday, and it's it wasn't much. I would like to see Jackson get those minutes, but I'm not making that decision. If he's not going to be getting those minutes, I'd like to see him down with the twos, getting consistent minutes. Jackson's like Campbell to me, that he needs to be playing. Mm-hmm. If that's with the twos and he's not making the first team, I need him at least getting minutes.
Next point from Christopher: let Marcelino Moreno pick his position and structure the team around that.
Not exactly, because you're not going to let a player pick their position and structure it around that. Again, I went back on Moreno to dig into it a little bit. He is rated over, and this is no ratings based off stats. He's rated over a 7 on SofaScore. He's producing things. Last night, for example, he was fouled 8 times, which is a rather obscene number. He won 12 of his 16 duels. He created 2 chances. He won all 3 of his dribbles. He had 1 shot. I want to see him with more shots. In other games recently, in New England as an example, he had 4 shots, and he was rated even higher. He was a 7.8 in that game. 3 of 5 on his dribbles, 2 of 5 on his crosses, 10 of 21 on his ground duels. He earned 3 free kicks. He's created a chance in every game, 1 or 2 in every game. He has been fouled 3 times or more in 4 of his 6 games he's played. He didn't play in the first leg in Alajuelense. There's room for improvement. I want more from him going to goal, but he can do that from a wide position. He can. Barco centrally and Moreno wide, I think, is the best approach. There's still a lot of room for that to grow. I don't think you scrap it this early. That's the problem. And I don't drop Hindman to move Moreno centrally and then push Hindman to the bench. I don't do that. I think Emerson has been really good. He had an amazing tackle last night, tracking back. It's tough. It's tough. You're figuring it out on the fly, and it's not there yet in the final third for Moreno, consistently, for Dom, consistently, for Mulroney. I thought Mulroney had a big opportunity last night that he wasn't able to take advantage of. I thought Eric Lopez had a big opportunity last night that he wasn't able to take advantage of. Those are things that, you've got to find the right combination, and you've got to get to where you're playing freer in the final third. It's just not there yet right now, and it's got to be better. The build-up is good. The first 2 phases I'm good with, but the final third still feels too rigid.
And then Christopher's final points is that he misses Michael Parkhurst, and he says, we're collectively 4 feet tall playing Giants. Why are we crossing so much?
Because you've scored a lot of goals off of crosses with the number 7 as a striker. That's
what they're giving you.
Philadelphia, that's what they're giving you, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Philadelphia, that's they're a 4-4-2 diamond. Like, that's 4 central midfielders. That's 2 center backs, and they've got 1 player out wide. Now, of course, people double down and help, and that's what you want because you want to then stretch the game out. But yeah, Philadelphia is going to take away the middle of the park. Other teams will do it differently. We'll see what Miami does. But yeah, that's what the Philadelphia game gave you. And, it feels like we go back and forth on more crosses, less crosses, too many crosses, not good enough crosses. I mean, you got to have wide play to open the field up, and I think they're doing that element. They're not taking advantage of the field being opened up. That's the part that's got to be better. It's not all crosses all day. Find some other alternatives as well.
Yeah, there's times where, and this is something I think it'll come with time. This is something that I think we saw with Justin Miram and with a number of other players, in your transitional years of 2019, of go at guys. And you can't constantly go at guys. You can't constantly pump in crosses. But if you get a good matchup, be smart about it, but don't be afraid. And you've got guys who can win the dribble. I think Mulroney has shown he can do that. If nothing else, Mulroney can do something can show you with his speed. Lennon's better on the ball, I think, than he gets credit for in terms of his dribble. What Moreno can do on the dribble because everybody in this hemisphere knows what Moreno is capable of on the dribble. Even guys like when you underlap, where it's Lennon kind of, I can't remember my zones, but top left or right, just outside the 18.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember my zone number. Sorry.
You think?
But him or
go ahead.
Him or Bello in those zones where you start creating that gravity, you start trying to pull the shape of it and take guys on. And I liked what you saw at times last night where even if you weren't taking guys on, it wasn't, we're going to lay this back and recycle it. It's, we're going to hit that diagonal into the corner and try and create some space. And then, open up for someone else to have a little bit of space to gather themselves to see if they want to take someone else one-on-one. So, yeah, I mean, you can't do it all the time. You can't pump in crosses all the time. But it's also in the sense that I don't want to sit here and say that they're doing one thing perfectly or one thing horribly wrong every single time, because it still is a work in progress. I think guys are still getting comfortable. And to your point, and I think we talked about it last night, that you're still thinking a little too much at times.
Yeah, I think also one thing you're thinking about is how to deal with turning the ball over in the final third. And that feels like something that's holding the team back a little bit. And maybe right now it's because of legs. Maybe it's just because you don't have the legs to press the same way, so you're not able to fight to win the ball back as quickly. So it's, all right, if I make that run and try to crash on the back post, which is something that needs to happen more, I'm not going to be able to track back, and I'm not going to be able to defend. That had to change last night in the second half, especially because you were going for it. You got the lifeline on Sosa's goal, and Sosa was brilliant again last night. You got the lifeline, and you needed to. I feel like the game was a slugfest for the 10-15 minutes to start the second half. 60-minute mark, I thought you had to just empty the tank. Just empty the tank and go for it, and it still felt like there was a little bit of holding back. I think the one thing that I'm seeing a lot of conversation about that I would just caution thinking about this element of it. If you take a bunch of quick, long shots, or if you just flood everybody forward, you saw it late when they did really get numbers forward, and it's where you concede. You're going to be more exposed defensively, and good teams will take advantage of that if you don't finish plays. That's a risk you got to take at certain points. The positional element in that way, when you always have to be in position. This is the thing, and Pep Guardiola mentioned it yesterday when he was talking about PSG's loss to Manchester City. I mean, it's really simple. He said, when we attack good, we defend well. And when we defend well, we are solid and we attack better. He talks about it a lot in... If you don't build up the play properly, to the point that Guardiola, I think, has said, it's like 15 passes is what's necessary to be properly positioned when you build up play going into the final third. Of course, you can do that in shorter passes if the play presents itself, but he says it takes that many passes to get there in the right way. One element of the right way is to be in position to score goals. The other element is to be in position to defend. And I think right now they're definitely thinking about the positioning more than letting loose in the final third, which is what you have to do. That's the element that's got to come. And I think it comes from your talented players. It comes from Barco. It comes from Moreno. You got to feed Joseph. You got to keep feeding Joseph. You got to get him going. For me, the three players that changed this team in the final third are Barco, are Moreno, and Lennon. And Lennon can do that from a right back position. That's the best of both worlds. But then you need to get the right things out of the right winger. And it might not be standing out on the touchline consistently all the time. It might be coming inside and making that run to the near post, or hanging back when Heinemann and Barco crash and dropping into that spot that we've seen George Bello do a little bit from the left side. Dropping in to protect and be able to then press and try to pick up the second ball. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just as simple as just go and get everybody forward and score goals. It's just not quite that simple. So you've got to continue to work.
Jake Michaels on Marcelino Moreno says Moreno's completely ineffective. We've given him time to adjust and seen no progress at all. Dom and Mulroney are not consistent threats. Why do you think teams allow us to have 70% possession? They know we can't score. Bocanegra needs to fix the roster with real wingers.
What are real wingers? Is Lionel Messi a real winger? Is David Beckham a real winger? Is Raheem Sterling a real winger? They're all very different. What does that mean? I'm sorry. I got nothing else about Moreno's been ineffective and he's done nothing. Like, can he be better? Sure. Yeah, get Jadon Sancho, right, X-Pen. I don't think that's going to be in Atlanta's budget, even though it sounds like Dortmund is willing to sell for a lower number. I don't think that number is going to be it. A goal-scoring winger is a different one, Thomas Jawin, but it's not specifically on both sides. Because I think you look at the way this team's constructed, you want Lennon to be able to do what he does in the final third as an attacking right back. What's the team I'm trying to think of here? New England is a good one since we just saw him. Carlos Heel plays on the right wing a lot. Is he a traditional winger? No, not at all. Can he drift out wide and put in a cross? Absolutely he can. but he cuts inside a lot to free up space for the right back. You'd see Real Madrid do this for Marcelo when Marcelo was at his best. Barcelona, Dani Alves. You'd create the space for the back to get forward. Okay, you can create a structure to do that. So your right winger might be a different need than your left winger. Because I think what we're seeing right now is Bello is tucking in a little bit more than Lennon is. Lennon is get wide, get good crosses in, create chances. Bello, yes, when it's on, do it. But also understand and read the game. Your left winger needs to be different than your right winger because of the positions you have. You could go out and look for a different kind of right winger than you have. You could. You absolutely could. It could be Eric Lopez. Not based off last night's performance, but it could be. It could be somebody new. There's a lot of different possibilities with that. But it's not just get a traditional winger, because what is that? What do you want? Like, I don't know what that actually means, because not every team plays wide play the same way. You can't just look at this as a video game and say, give me the best winger. You need different things from different wingers. So you've got to find the right fit. Now I think you've got some games under your belt. You're seeing some things that you can look to go get, or prioritize, or work on developing from within, and that's where you're at. That's where you're at. But I think that right winger is a different need than the left winger. I think you're looking for them to do different things.
Domer was in last night, and he says, and he thanks Alex Pacine for the reference that's in his tweet. He says, why do our guys pass the ball like they're playing ultimate frisbee? I swear they only hit guys in stride when they're on the other team.
The passing was, I thought, tired last night at times. It was a lot of passes that were a step behind or slowed down a run, and that was very frustrating because it slowed down breaks, and it's something that's got to, it's got to be better. I think it looked tired to me last night. That's normally something you see when a team is tired.
Let me combine a couple with this next one. Kevin from Charlotte says, lots of one-on-one opportunities, and our wide players didn't beat anyone with either pace or skill. Tiki-taka says, we have no attacking talent. I'm not including Joseph because he's maybe 50% at this point. A bunch of okay passers who lack creativity. I'll always love the team, but it's going to be rough until Joseph gets better.
Wow. Guys, I mean, that's fine. If that's where it's at, that's fine. But okay passers and no attacking talent. All right. I don't know what to tell you. If that's where it's at, I honestly have nothing. I don't know. I can't really respond to that. Jarrett, you take it.
Rude.
Have at it, Jarrett.
Rude. We talked about this after the takeaway from New England about Barco, and it was something stuck about it for me was the idea of Barco, it wasn't good enough with Barco just creating chances, need goals and assists. When it comes to assists, creating chances is kind of the thing. Like, you can't. This isn't FIFA where you hit a button and you switch control to somebody else, and that somebody else you can control and put the ball in the back of the net. Like, you want to create clear-cut good chances, but then you kind of have to rely on somebody else to put the ball in the back of the net. Now, if you still have that question about we need somebody else who can be, lethal in front of net, it's a different conversation as far as a guy like Barco is concerned. I am very much in the camp as well, though. I want to see Moreno go into goal more. I'd like to see Barco pull the trigger more often. Don't always look for that next pass to unlock everything in just goal of the year quality. Pull back, have a shot.
Hey, but Jarrett, I'll tell you something though, because I watched it happen in 2019. That's exactly what Pity Martinez did, and he got crushed for it every single time. Pity, the player you're describing, is Pity Martinez in terms of going for it. Being a little selfish in the final third. I'm with you. I'd like to see Barco do that more. But then the criticism's just going to shift the other way. The first time he mishits one and puts it over the bar, which every attacking player in the world does, then it's going to be the opposite.
What was it? The Minnesota game the other night? I think it was Reynoso hit one of the people in the Wonder Ball in the face.
That was not good.
That's a highlight of my weekend, aside from staying up until 1 a.m. to watch DC just get eviscerated. 'Cause I make bad decisions.
That was fun though.
It was so dumb. It's. I don't really. I don't know. I don't really know. I guess what. I think I have an idea what everyone wants, but I mean, you're not gonna you can't. You're not going to load this up like it is like prime Liverpool from 2017. Like, you're not going to have like a front three of guys where everybody's scoring 20 goals. Everybody's scoring 15 goals. Like, that's just not – it's hard to structure like that. It's hard to do that in a salary cap league too, because guys who can score 15, 20 goals, you kind of have trouble hanging on to them in a salary cap league because either Europe comes calling or it gets really hard to balance the financials on it. I saw someone ask, what do you do this summer? I don't know. We're going to have to see how the Olympics go, because you should have guys like Ezekiel Barco going to the Olympics. If Barco goes to the Olympics and does what he's capable of, I mean, do you start getting offers for him in the summer? Then do you have the knock-on effect of, how do you look for a potentially open DP spot? If Alan Franco can be bought down, that's potentially another open DP spot. Like, you have options, but you're not going to fill them just for the hell of it. You're not going to put dirt in a hole just to put dirt in a hole.
The problem, though, Jarrett, and I wanted to make sure I had these dates right. The Olympics are from when to when? This time around.
From when they light the torch till they put it out?
Yeah, but I was kind of asking for dates there, smarty pants.
Specifics. No one does specifics.
July 21st to August 7th is when it ends. The MLS transfer window is July 7th through August 5th.
Ooh.
So the problem is somebody would have
transfer someone while he's at the games.
Yeah.
Group stage.
I mean, that would be that's how it would go if that happens, because there's no time. Now, that's the MLS window. Now, the windows in Europe are open after that. And that's what I'm getting at here. If you're going to have to make a decision by August 7th, which is when your transfer window, or August 5th, when your transfer window closes, that we're going to lose him. We expect to lose him, and we're going to make a move. That's where you do have a little flexibility if you can buy down Alan Franco. Now, I don't know the cap ramifications of all that, if you can make that work, but okay, you could add a DP before you sell Barco. Sure, that could happen. But that's a big bet to make, because if you don't sell Barco, then you're going to have to sell him or loan him or do something to clear up your cap, probably. That's the part that I don't know, and that's the thing that we don't know. Like, sure, you could buy Franco down, but that's a lot of cap space that you're going to need. You're going to need allocation money. Like, do you have it? Can you do it? I think contractually with him, yes, that's the impression. That's been the impression from day one. But can you make it fit in terms of a cap? The timing here is going to be difficult, because you might not be able to get the replacement if you're banking on the Olympics being what opens that up, because your window is going to close before the Olympics are over. It's tough. It's a weird timeline.
And I guess the long story short of it is, I don't expect stuff to happen in the summer, because you're going to have Gabriel Heinze look at this team and go through the spring and go through the summer. I think he's going to look at it and say, here's what I want to possibly bring in. Because, I think it is a bit foolhardy to think that everything is going to work perfectly, and to think you can't improve in some areas. Sure. I just don't know what you improve 6 games in, because I still want to see a little bit more from everybody, honestly, in terms of a sample size. It's not baseball where you have 162 games, where 6 games is a blip on the radar, but it's also not the NFL where this is, a third of your season. Now a third of your season, because you expanded games.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to see, a little bit more, especially in league games where you're not going to be, burning the midnight oil, before we figure out what you do want to see. Because, I think you do make moves in the summer, even if they're not, even if you're not bringing in, a $15 million guy. I think you're going to be making moves. Guys in the academy will be making moves. Jackson Conway is going to be, I think, pushing for time. Same thing, hopefully, with a guy like Machop Chol. We've seen Jack Gurr make the field now with the first team. So it's going to be different. And some of those changes you see might come from inside. That's okay, because that's what you want. You want those guys to graduate and to rip those opportunities away from somebody else.
I wanted to double check it, and thank you, Premier League, for being timely with our conversation about transfer windows. They just confirmed the summer 2021 transfer window a little while ago, and it closes in England on August 31st. Around Europe, it's probably that same day, just a little bit different timing on the time zones. So, yeah, I mean, you could be in that situation where your window's closed, but you might make a transfer out, and then how do you justify that? That's a really difficult one because you can't go get that replacement. We've talked about that from Atlanta United's perspective when they brought players in or wanted to bring players in. Independiente is a prime example with Alan Franco. So it's you can go get him because you can add him, but they can't go get a replacement. That makes it very complicated. So Atlanta could be in that situation in the reverse this time. If Barco goes and lights it up at the Olympics, which is definitely a possibility, then you're going to be in a tough decision because you might not be able to sign a replacement for him, but it might be the right time to sell him. And that's a tricky one. There's not an easy way to deal with it. Jarrett, final thoughts from you. Mike Conti's going to join us here in a couple of minutes, and we're kicking you out.
That's fine. Give me more pettiness from Major League Soccer. The next game between these two should be a lot of fun. Hopefully no one gets elbowed. Hopefully no one gets cleated in the back of the head.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, that would be bad. How is that not a yellow card at a minimum? And how is it not a red when Jack Elliott has his boot and makes contact with Joseph's head, studs up? Uh-huh. Yeah. And it's not even a card?
Yeah.
I mean, that's because a red for some referees. It doesn't matter.
Sorry, I'm being facetious.
Yeah, well, Villarreal wasn't, sadly. You don't want to hand out
cards that early. You don't want to set the tone. Like, you made a dangerous play. I mean, that's not why.
Minimum of a yellow.
Didn't move through.
But you'll give Elliott a yellow toward the end of the first half.
No, he deserved that yellow.
That was the right call to give him a card there because it was a professional foul.
Yeah, that yellow was dead on. The boot to the head is a red. I mean, it absolutely can be a red. I don't care what minutes it's in. It was ridiculously dangerous.
Absolutely.
Let's get to the weekend. Everyone get to the weekend in one piece. Actually, should be a lot of fun against Miami.
Okay, last one, Jarrett. Who's the one player that you want to see step up against Miami on Sunday? Quick. One player got to step up.
Pressure. Emerson Hyndman.
Okay.
Not to say that Hyndman hasn't been good, but
yeah. That center midfield, like that's I think one of the things that can unlock this team going to the final third. Good call, Jarrett. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate it.
Yep.
We'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Maybe, possibly, allegedly. We'll see. All right, John, you've got a read to do and you're out of practice, so we'll see how this goes. Unless you've been practicing doing reads at home without doing a show.
Yeah, no, I have not been looking in a mirror practicing my Apolinski and Associates reads, getting ready for when you're manageable when it comes to your allergies. No, sir, I have not done that.
Yeah, manageable is definitely the way to put it. And Ron Digital, you're the bomb for gifting subs. You rock. Thank you. Okay. Let's give this a shot. John, tell us about our friend Steve Apolinski.
Apolinski and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network for wrongful death and serious injury matters. One place you need to go, and it is said firm. Apolinski and Associates, LLC. 3 different ways that you can do it. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve@aa-legal.com. You can pick up the phone. Give him a call, get a free consultation, 404-377-9191, or go on the World Wide Web, large device or small, into the address bar. You type aa-legal.com, hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances you to the homepage for Apolinski and Associates, LLC. When the homepage is displayed, Shows you all the different cases that they can handle for you, all the different awards that they have won. And if you still have questions after viewing all of that information and getting information overload, there's a pop-up window that pops up, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up. Get your question answered that way, 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. Torrential rain or sunshine, manageable temperatures or otherwise, for wrongful death and serious injury matters, there's only one place you need to go. It's Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
That was about your average time. Just looking at the timestamps. So you did that very well. We will see what people think. Let's see. Nick Alifi hanging out with us. He says, win. 10 from Alex, of course.
Thank you, Alex. Good morning.
A 10 from Abby, because you finished exactly at 10 o'clock. A 7 meh. A 7 extremely average. A -2 for whatever advances you to the home page. Yeah, I'm with Thomas Jewin on that one, too. A -1 for the Daniel LaRusso hand waving. I like how that was put. Wax on, wax off. 7 from Thomas.
Show me Santa Flora.
-2 for the temperature nonsense. It was a good effort. It was a good effort. I liked the try. It didn't really come off, but it was a good try.
It was because we haven't been here for a couple of days, and what we've gone through meteorologically, that's where the reference came from.
Yeah, what we've gone through because of the stupid weather that's made my sinuses try to turn my head inside out. Let's see. Sean Vergara gives you a 7.1234, a shocking 7.1234.
A shocking. Well, is that shocking good or shocking bad?
Sean usually gives you much lower scores than that.
Oh, well, then thank you, Sean, for a shocking grade.
Yes. Johannes gives you a 10. That's a blanking 10.
A blanking 10.
I'll let you figure out where the blankings are. 9.5 from the West Coast, 8 solid read, 7.5 mid-table form, 6.5 out of 10, 6.89.
Mid-table form. So I'm Crystal Palace of reads?
That was better than Crystal Palace. That's kind of harsh. I mean, you were at least like Mikel Arteta's Arsenal with it, I think. At least.
So there's elements of promise that are underachieving, like Aubameyang, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it's that whole line about however you get to the homepage thing. You should know by now.
Yeah.
Probably should find out on that one. All right, Mateo is dialing up Mike Conti to continue the conversation about Atlanta United. We'll kind of wrap up other things in the last half hour of the show as Mike joins us. What's up, Mike? Mike thinks about joining us. He says he said he was joining us.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, his Mateo might be broken. We will figure that out.
Who was it that said in the timeline yesterday that with you feeling under the weather that we should start the kids and go ahead and give Mateo the opportunity to host the show?
Yeah, that's frightening. Because I don't have split personalities like some, so I really don't know if I can help you with that one. All right, we're going to try to get Mike back on now as his connection was a little faulty. We'll see if he can join us back now as he is connecting up. Mateo dialed up Mike. Has Mike dialed us up? He is efforting. He is efforting. He is muted, I can see, and he's figuring things out. So hang tight. Technical difficulties. We're working through it. We're figuring these things out. Don't yell at Mateo. This one's not on Mateo. This one, we're just trying to figure out what the tech issue is here. Mike, you are muted from what I can see on your end on Skype. There we go.
How about now?
There we go.
I am so sorry. So anytime I reboot my computer and it had to download a Windows update, anytime I do that, it blows out all my Skype settings.
Yes, that is an issue on our end as well.
And I thought that I had everything right, and I didn't. So I apologize for that very much.
That is definitely prone to happening.
Yeah, but I think we're good now. And it's a good thing because I'm feeling a little not feisty today, but I just
a little prickly.
No, I just think there are some things out there that need clarification or need to be responded to, I guess. I don't know. I'm struggling with some narratives that I'm starting to see out there.
Oh no, I've been a little hopped up on medicine, so I haven't been putting narratives together yet. What's out there?
No, it's not. Jeez.
No, not me. I know, but I'm missing the narratives. I need to get caught up on the narratives because I need to know the storylines here. What are we talking about?
I mean, first of all, I think we need to dig into this whole. Well, they've only scored 7 goals in their first 7 matches, and the 2018 team scored 17 goals in their first 7 matches. So Atlanta United is declining.
Okay,
and further, first let me just dig into that for a moment. Jason and John, 2018 was a very special year that I will remember fondly, probably for the rest of my life. Correct me if I'm wrong. Up until that point, no MLS team had ever accomplished as far as points earned, some of the other major offensive categories. I mean, that was truly a historic season for Atlanta United in 2018.
I think the comparison, Mike, that I saw, I think it might have been, and Thomas Jewin said it was the 17 team that had those numbers of goals, which I think is even more faulty because you scored 6 of them against Vadim Demidov.
Minnesota. Yeah. And they were all league games.
Yeah.
So
Vadim Demidov is good for like a few goals by himself, and their goalkeeper, that was the last game he played in MLS. So,
right. So I mean, let's be fair when we're starting to make. And by the way, 2017, if that is the comparison, 2017 Atlanta United's first 7 matches, they were 3-2-2. Do you know what they are this year in their first 7 competitions? 3-2-2. Okay, now they scored 10 fewer goals in 2021 compared to 2017, but you're right. They had 6-1 against Minnesota, and again, those were all league matches. You're not flying to Costa Rica. You're not having to play an intense 2-leg series against a very good MLS team in Philadelphia, where match day really did dictate a lot of what happened last night. I don't think, and then even let's dig into the league games you've had to play. Orlando, really good team. New England, number 1 in the East. Chicago, you scored 3 on them. What's the problem there? So I don't think that's fair to compare what's happened this year to 2017 or 2018. And I've seen some suggest that, well, in 2017, it was a new manager, then 2 new players, all of that. Jason, you did the games in 2017. I did not. So help me out. Correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like that 2017 group had a much longer period of time to train together, to go through some preseason competitions that were like meaningful preseason friendlies, as opposed to having to drive in a USL League One team, to do a joint training exercise with you. That some of the components of that team had been assembled long before that training camp even opened. And by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe in 2017 you were also wrestling with and fighting with the COVID protocols that have obviously made a huge impact on every MLS team, not just Atlanta United. I just don't think that's – I think you're comparing apples and oranges if you're going from 2017 to 2021 and trying to make judgments on 2021 based on what 2017 was, especially when things haven't been that bad in 2021. That's number 1.
Let's compare one element of that I think is an important one. So you played your first competitive match in 2021 on April 6th. You then played your second on April 13th, a week apart. Then you were short rest into Orlando on the 17th. Then you played the 24th. Then you were short rest into Philadelphia on the 27th. Short rest into the 1st with New England. Short rest into last night. The 2017 version, 7 games. You played your first match on March 5th. You played your 7th match on April 22nd. You did have a window, an international window in there as well between March 18th and March 31st.
And I don't remember a ton of players being called up for that.
You had a few.
Ton.
You had, I know Almiron was, because that game in Seattle off of the break, which was a scoreless draw. I think Almiron and Joseph might have come off the bench because they were coming back from that, but it affected that game. You know, I mean, you also look at who you played in 17 and the Minnesota game where you put 6 on them. Minnesota was historically bad defensively. The Chicago game where they had a red card in the first 10 minutes and you won 4-0 and had complete control. And you went to RSL and had a big 3-1 win. You know, you played good teams in the Red Bulls that year. You played good teams in Seattle that year, Toronto. So you played a couple of really good teams and you got results. You didn't score against Seattle. You scored 2 against Toronto. Those were really impressive results. I'll put the 2-2 draw in Toronto on April 8th as the best early result for Atlanta United in 2017. But the time frame is just completely different. And that's not even getting into the preseason element of it, where you were able to go to Chattanooga and play, and you were able to go to the Carolina Challenge Cup and play 3 games. It's just very, very different. And that's a reality here. You've played 7 games in what, a month?
Yeah.
Instead of 7 games in about 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Let me go a step further, because I agree with everything you've said. Why then are we not making the comparison between what Atlanta United has done so far this year and the 4 other MLS teams that have been involved in CONCACAF? I think that might be a more fair comparison because of the match compression and because of the travel. So let's compare. Again, Atlanta United, right now, they've played 7 competitions and have gotten results in 5 of them. Now, maybe I'm being a homer, maybe I'm being biased. 5 results in 7 competitions is pretty good, especially when you consider who you've played.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm being a homer, then let's compare what Atlanta United has done to Portland, who's 2-2-2. They're +2 on goals. They've scored 11 goals, but they had a goleada in one of their CONCACAF Champions League round of 16 legs. I can't remember if it was the home leg or the road leg.
Do you
but
mean
they had
one favor, too, on Portland? They've lost 2, right?
Yes, they have lost 2.
Who did they lose to?
The Vancouver Whitecaps and
FC Dallas.
FC Dallas.
Those 2 teams are not Philadelphia and New England.
Mm-mm.
Or Orlando, I would say.
Yeah, as a draw. Yeah, even at that, the third one. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
You know.
So that's the Portland comparison. Portland's a pretty good club, ambitious club, always seems to be a contending club. Seem to remember a couple years ago they played Atlanta United in a pretty big match.
I remember.
Won a big midseason competition last year to get into the Champions League, if I recall. So I think Portland, those guys know what they're doing up there. Toronto has played 6 competitions. They're 1-3-2, 3 losses, including last night. They have scored 8 goals, 1 more than Atlanta United. They're -4 on goal difference. Atlanta United's even. Toronto also going through some challenges of not being able to train or play at home, but they, like Atlanta United, have a new coach. Okay, I would objectively say that Atlanta United has handled everything better so far than Toronto. Toronto's got 1 win in 7 competitions, 3 results in 6 competitions, 3 results in 6. Atlanta United has 5 results in 7.
I'll give Toronto a lot of credit because they've got a lot of injuries. So, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I think Chris Armas has done a really good job with that group so far. He talked about it a little bit last night. He said that, all the things that we've talked about that make it difficult for Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal this season. No home field, you're away from your families, their designated players are not healthy right now. They faced Cruz Azul, who is the best team in Mexico. I'll give Toronto a lot of credit, and I think where CCL has really hurt them has been in the league play because they just don't have the depth right now to fight on two fronts.
Their designated players haven't been healthy. Boy, that sounds familiar. So again, and Jason, I agree with you. I think Toronto, given everything they've had to deal with this year, they've done a respectable job so far. I'm sure they'd like to maybe be a little bit better in the win column right now, but it is what it is. They're fighting through some things. Mm-hmm. Columbus has played 5 competitions. They're 2-0 and 3 draws. Okay, they have scored 7 goals, same as Atlanta United. They are +5 on goals, substantially better than Atlanta United. They've been playing to some scoreless draws lately. They haven't lost. I will give them credit for that. They have not lost. They're in a really good position to maybe go through. But again, that's the team that won the MLS Cup last year, and they've only scored 7 goals in their first 5 competitions. So if we're going to bang on Atlanta United for not scoring enough goals, and my favorite, not scoring enough golazos, apparently penalties and tap-in goals don't count the same as a golazo. I've seen that out there a little bit. I just think that's interesting that now, again, they have played 2 fewer matches, but they've scored the same amount of goals as Atlanta United. And then Philadelphia, and look, I mean, they got a win and a draw against Atlanta, but they have the exact same record through 7 competitions, 3-2-2. They have scored 9 goals. That's 2 more than Atlanta United in the same number of competitions. They're +5 on goals, goal difference. So I don't know why this Atlanta United team is being judged against 2017 and 2018 when I think it might be more accurate to judge them against the 4 other MLS clubs that are going through the challenge of playing in this tournament with this kind of match compression and this kind of travel right at the start of the season. I don't know if we're looking at the correct comparison. And look, I understand there's frustration. I understand that, you want to win every match. I mean, Atlanta United fans want this team to be 7-0-0 and score 21 goals in their first 7 matches and, be +21 in goal. We all want that, but this is not supposed to be easy. And I would put Atlanta United's schedule up against Portland, Toronto, Columbus, or Philly and say, you know what? I'd say probably Atlanta United's played the toughest schedule of the 5. Easily. Philadelphia did beat them at the Benz and then got the draw last night.
Philadelphia lost at home to Miami.
Exactly. Philadelphia was, I want to be really clear, I think Philadelphia was the better team last night. I do. But I think Atlanta was
last night,
the better team in Atlanta.
You don't think? No, last night I disagree. I think Atlanta was the better team. I think Philadelphia's chances were a lot of long-range stuff. I think Atlanta was the better team in general last night, and I think they were the better team for 45 in Atlanta, but they lost their heads after falling behind.
Yeah, that's fair.
And look, and I know I'm sure people are going to create narratives about me saying that. Go ahead, that's fine. I'm used to it. But you can judge a game based off more than just the scoreline. I think Atlanta, and SofaScore agrees with it too, in terms of the match ratings and the player ratings. Atlanta was the better team according to them with what they produced. It wasn't good enough. You can play well and lose, or you can play well and draw in this case and not advance. Like, these things happen. But it's not the end of the world when you look at the way they played against a good team last night. I think that's where my confusion is coming from, is that the reaction is to a team like Minnesota right now, who's really struggling and not winning at all. Atlanta United won the home games that they should have won easily. They did. They beat Alajuelense. They beat Chicago. They lost the one, which is the worst result they've had, to Philadelphia, because you shouldn't lose 3-0 at home, period. You've gotten draws on the road, and I know the 180 minutes you're managing it a little bit differently, but you got a draw in Philadelphia, who's your Supporter Shield winner. You got a draw in Orlando. I mean, that's not easy.
And your road loss to the number one team in the East was on a controversial penalty.
And they're a good team, and they were an Eastern Conference finalist last year.
Exactly.
So, and you were not as good as they were. They were the better team on Saturday night, but you weren't, a distant second, in my opinion.
No.
You were right there. They were just better because they're good.
Yeah, thank you for putting it maybe in a better phrasing than I would. Because you're right. Like, I don't know. I got to be careful how I say this, because it is not a bad thing to hold a club to a high standard.
100%.
But I don't know if the standard that some are holding Atlanta United to right now is 100% fair. I don't think it's factoring in all of the circumstances.
You have Mike. You have a team that's still learning under a new coach.
Well, yes, John, and I really have not seen much of. Barco was out last night, and Barco couldn't finish the New England match on Saturday when you may have had the Revs on the ropes a little bit in the final 10 minutes. Like that hasn't been mentioned much. I've seen a lot of people say, because I had a tweet last night about Joseph and touches in the final third, and someone said, look at how Atlanta United's 3 designated players are playing right now. I mean, I don't think necessarily anyone's playing poorly, but let's look at that for a second. Barco is out.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph is still working his way back.
Right.
And Franco just got here. So, I mean, you look at New England, and they, as an example, Carlos Heel is in fitness and in form right now. You look at Orlando, Nani is in fitness and in form right now. Barco was in fitness and in form, and then he got hurt. That's a massive, massive loss. Massive loss. And I think that's been either forgotten or not mentioned enough. And I just think, again, we want more. We want to win everything, but I'll go back to it again. Atlanta United has played 7 competitions against really, really good competition and has gotten results in 5 of them. That is not bad. That is not bad. And again, one of the losses you had on the road to a very good team, there was a very, very controversial decision that decided the match. It doesn't mean that New England wasn't better, but it was a controversial decision that decided the match. You completely dominated Philadelphia for 45 at the Benz. You panicked after you gave up a set-piece goal. They will learn from that. Criticism of that is absolutely fair. But you went up there last night, and I think you did pretty much anything you could realistically hope for. You scored. You had some heat on Philadelphia in the second half. The goal that Shabilko got at the very end, I mean, look, it doesn't even matter at that point. You've got everyone going up further to try to get that second goal. You had Philadelphia nervous in the second half of that match. That's pretty much all you can ask for when you've given up 3 road goals in the first leg. So let's see how they respond in Miami. And if Barco is out again, that's going to be a problem. But I think it is way, way too early and a little bit unfair to start making comparisons to the problems Atlanta United had at the start of the 2019 season and the start of the 2020 season. If the start of 7 matches in 2020, Atlanta United was 3-3-1 and scored 8 goals, and had just been shut out twice at the end of that stretch.
Yeah, 2020 is a whole different animal. 2019 is a closer comparison if you want to really get into it.
But, Jason, I think this team's further ahead now than they were at the start of 2019.
I agree. I agree. They're further into the way they want to play. It took longer to get there in 2019 because the communication wasn't good enough, and that's been brought out many times since. This team feels a lot closer through 7 than it did at that point. At that point, what you had to do to get results was get a little more defensive to get through the hard part of it. Right now, I don't think you need to change anything about getting more defensive. You need to play with more freedom in the final third. And that's down to individuals. That's down to players. Like, that's down to players performing in that phase of play, because I think the foundation, the building blocks are there. You are going to risk. You are going to get numbers forward. That means that you are going to be prone to opponents being able to counter you. I think they do need to be a little bit smarter at times with a tactical foul. I think that's something that we haven't seen enough of at times. They think they can play through it and win the ball back instead of kill it here, kill it in their half before they get into our half. That's something that needs to improve. Biggest thing is more variety, more creativity in the final third. That's the biggest thing that needs to change. It's nothing structurally for me. 2019 felt structural, some of the issues.
And Jason, isn't that kind of the last thing to always fall into place with any team, any year, especially when they make major changes?
Yeah, always. I mean, it's just that's sports. It's easier to defend than it is to attack. It's easier to, keep the other team off the board through structure and through coaching than it is to teach people how to do difficult things. That's the element that has to be better. And for me, it's so much of it's freedom at this point. And it feels like Heinze's trying to kind of will them towards it. The team has worked really hard in understanding how this structure is set up. And I think they've done a good job of maintaining that. Maybe at times a little bit too good of a job of maintaining that, because it gets a little rigid in the part of the field where it can't be rigid. You can't script goals. You can work on patterns of play, and we talked about it earlier. There was a consistent effort last night to get the ball to the left, cut across, play Lennon on the right side, put in a cross. That was a very specific pattern of play that they were working through last night. Okay. You still can't script it from that cross, because sometimes you take the cross away. Brooks has got to cut it back, look for somebody at the top of the 18. Sometimes he's got to recycle the play because it's not on. You can't script the final third. You can script how you defend. You can script how you press. You can script those things. You can't have a player become a robot in the final third and be effective. That's down to individuals. And you need more from certain individuals, and you need to play with more freedom. And that's something that Heinze's mentioned multiple times this season.
Absolutely. But that will come. That will come. And, if you're looking for silver linings, this is going to make your match compression a little less severe now. Where you are going to have more time, maybe starting next week. Although going Tuesday to Sunday is not awful. I'm sure. I don't know if they came back home last night or if they're coming back this morning. But you're going to have a couple days. I'm sure they'll probably fly down to Miami on Saturday because they play pretty early on Sunday. But you're going to have a couple days to sort some things out on the training ground. You're going to play Miami, and then you're going to have a week going into a home match against Montreal, where you can really start digging into these things. And then you play Montreal, and then you have another 8 days. You'll probably go to Seattle a day or two early and maybe have a training out there on Saturday. I don't know for sure, but, that's typically what they've done in the past with West Coast trips.
It's an early game. Now, that's one thing, and I don't know because there are some league rules about this, about being able to do those sorts of things. If it's a 3-hour trip or less, and Seattle's not, then it's day of the game. If it's an early kickoff, and I don't know where that line is.
It's a 1:30 West Coast kickoff.
Yeah, that one, and it's a long trip, too, so they'll definitely travel the day before. But the Miami game, for example, they'll travel the day before because it's an early kick, and then fly back after the game. Like, there are some rules about limiting stays on the road right now, and I guess because this one was CONCACAF and you were able to deal with it differently and whatever, but you did have to fly day of to New England.
Yeah.
And
which is not a short flight, by the way.
No, it's like what Chicago dealt with coming here, and I think it affected them in the second half.
Not only is it not a short flight, it's also not a short bus trip, whether they go to Providence or Boston. You're going to be on a bus for 90 minutes to get to the stadium. Look, again, guys, I am not trying to make excuses at all for anything. Please understand that. I just think it's too early to be this down on them. If we get to Memorial Day and they're still struggling in the final third, and maybe they've lost a couple more matches, then we might have another discussion. But I also look at their schedule coming up: Miami, Montreal, Seattle, Nashville. Those are not easy games either. No. And that's the other thing. And Heinze said it. The other team is trying to beat you too. You know, you have to give a little bit of fair play to Philadelphia. You have to give fair play to New England. You have to give fair play to, Orlando. Everyone. This is not supposed to be easy. I think 2018 made us think that it would be easy. It's not like that every year, unfortunately, but it's not that bad. And I'm just going to make one more point about the lack of open play goals conversation that's come up. I think when you use that argument, you're demeaning everything that you did in the buildup to create the two penalties that you got, the one at Alajuelense and the one in New England. You demean everything you did in the buildup to create the penalty. The own goal against Chicago. Okay, so I guess it wasn't Marcelino Moreno whipping that ball into danger. No. The ball just kind of floated there accidentally. And
got there on its own.
And Chicago just turned and punted it into their own net. I mean, come on. I don't think that's fair. I understand that is a talking point, and I get it. And look, I can't refute that Atlanta United doesn't have a lot of open play goals right now. I don't have any response to the contrary, but I think we need to be a little bit careful because I consider that own goal against Chicago to be an open play goal.
Yeah,
that was all put in by Marcelino Moreno. That's an open play goal. The penalty at Alajuelense is a penalty created in open play. The penalty in New England was a penalty created by Moreno in open play. So I think, again, and Jason, I appreciate you kind of putting a calmer, more well-rounded spin on this.
It's the medicine.
Give me a dose of it if it's not going to make you sick. My goodness. I just look again. Let's calm down because you've played 7 matches. They've all been against very good competition. You've gotten results in 5 of them with a new coach, a new designated player on your back line, Barco getting hurt, Joseph not 100%. I mean, if we were to say on February 24th, Atlanta United would be wrapping up the quarterfinals of CONCACAF, 3 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses, and you didn't lose to Orlando. You had a very, very controversial loss in New England where a penalty call was decisive. I think given everything that this team was going through in training camp, all the information they had to process, adapting to Heinze and his positioning philosophy, I'd say, you know what, that's pretty good. They're probably on schedule, maybe a little bit ahead of schedule. Let's give them a chance now to see how this is going to look through the rest of the month of May.
I don't want to harp on it because there's one more topic that we've got to get your take on it. We haven't really jumped too deep into. But Thomas Jawin reminds me of a really good point here that this is where the conversation about penalties and open play goals and stuff like that is not fair. In 2017, there was a lot of harping on, well, there's a bunch of penalties. Well, they've had a bunch of penalties. Well, and then the conversation was exactly what you said. You've got to create those situations. That was what we talked about from this perspective, from Atlanta's perspective, is no, Joseph is getting into these positions and he's getting fouled. Miguel Almiron's getting into these positions and getting fouled. That's good. That's what you're supposed to do. It has turned to a point, and I really dislike this point, that earning free kicks doesn't mean anything. That's 100% wrong. And I'm sorry, anybody who tries to say that to you, it's wrong. If you earn a free kick in your defensive half, does it mean as much? No. If you earn a free kick that gives you a shot on goal, yes, you're creating a shot. Yes, you did it by getting kicked in the kneecap, possibly, but you're creating a shot. Marcelino Moreno created a goal with his movement in the 18 and getting fouled. He created a goal from that. That's creating a chance. Yes, it's valuable. You've got to put yourself in those positions. So in 2017, you were putting yourself in those positions. That's what you're supposed to do. Now, if you do that, it's bad. No, you want to create more than that. Yes, obviously. You want to create more chances from the run of play. You want to create more chances than what you're doing. That takes time. You can't discount things that you're creating. That's the part that doesn't make sense, and it feels like we're picking and choosing. Okay. We got to get into Jim Curtin versus Gabriel Heinze, the steel cage match. When is it happening?
He did remember that they're going to play twice more, right? Like that's something you say when maybe you've eliminated a team from the postseason and you aren't going to see him again for a while.
Yeah,
I was a little surprised.
Yeah. I like Jim Curtin a lot. We've talked a lot about Jim Curtin. I think he is a very, very good manager. Jason, I think you said on stoppage time last week you could see him managing in Europe one day. He's that good. I would have liked to have seen him get some consideration for U.S. men's national team. I understand why maybe he didn't, but I'm a big, big fan of Jim Curtin. Now, all that being said, obviously there was some emotion at the end of the match last night. Because we've only heard one side of that story, right. Jim Curtin's side of the story, I don't really know what more I can say at this point. It is eyebrow-raising. It is very, very unusual that he would be as blunt in his post-game comments as that. I'm sure it will not be forgotten. And like I said, these two teams are going to play again in, 8 weeks? Something like that. And I hope it's something that's remembered by Atlanta United supporters.
Yeah.
When Philadelphia Union comes here, but things happen in the heat of the moment after a final whistle. I mean, I remember there was a dust up between who was it? Chris Armas and Tata Martino at Red Bull Arena at the end of the 2018 season. It does happen. I mean, not quite to the extent of, one coach using a profanity to describe another coach,
right,
in post-match. But, hey, look, it was an intense 180 minutes. It was an intense match. Heinze even said it was an intense match last night. Both teams had numerous chances to score. Soccer's an emotional game, and that's what happens when you get emotional, I guess. But I was a little surprised to hear Jim Curtin go there, but obviously he felt very, very upset about something, and that's the language that he chose, I guess.
Okay,
Shocked.
So here's the full transcription of the event, and I'm going to go down a couple of sentences here. And this is Curtin talking. Quote, "I said you weren't going to shake my hand, and we just had a discussion about the game. He thought our players were diving and faking injuries. I get that. But I don't think that's what we're about. I think we're about doing our talking on the field. I'm proud of the group for advancing. Look, again, I'll say it. He's an incredible coach. He's an incredible player, but you still can be also a sore loser and be an a-hole at the end of the game." I would go back to the first paragraph and reference Sergio Santos in leg 1 and Santos again in leg 2, but as an example of that.
And look at the way Jose Martinez plays for him. I'm sorry. I mean, the Philadelphia Union are not, the saintly representatives of fair play. So let's call it for what it is. But these are things that Curtin has to do to defend his team and to fire them up.
Yeah,
he's doing his job as a coach. So I'm not. I have to be honest, John. I'm not really super offended by it at all. These things happen in emotional situations. But to go back to your point, John, I would not be handing Philadelphia Union any fair play trophies for the way that they've played these first 7 matches of the year. No. We still don't know what the Jose Martinez ban is, by the way, but it should be
5 minimum.
At least
5 minimum for me.
But, and here's a chance, and this is something we'll probably talk more about on Friday. Here's a chance for the disciplinary committee to prove that they really are committed to player safety. Mm-hmm. I thought too frequently last year, the disciplinary committee got way, way too hung up in players not leaving the pitch in a timely manner and, kind of trifling things that that, yeah, I guess needed to be addressed, but not with fines and suspensions and everything like that, while being very, very light on sanctions to players that created safety danger, safety problems. Here, I think, is an opportunity for the disciplinary committee to prove its commitment to player safety. I'm with Jason. I think it should be a 5-game ban. I have a feeling it won't be. But here is an opportunity for Disco to say, you know what? We are really, really committed to player safety, and we're going to make an example of Jose Martinez and ensure that no one is going to line up Valentin Castellanos or anyone else with the people's elbow ever again and not have to fear tremendous repercussions for it.
Now, this is a little different, and it's a little bit different time in the league as well. Ricardo Clark got a 9-game suspension for trying to kick Carlos Ruiz's head off. Ruiz was on the ground. Clark kicked him in the right shoulder while he was on the ground. He was red carded immediately. He got a 9-game suspension. And Don Garber at that time, and again, this was 2007, Garber said, in taking this action, Major League Soccer is sending a signal that it will not accept reckless and dangerous behavior on its fields. If there is a repeat of this kind of behavior by any MLS player, even firmer sanctions can be expected in the future. If you saw that one, this felt like it's in that ballpark to me, because you've got a player who's prone and you are dropping an elbow on his face. Now, he wasn't injured, and Carlos Ruiz wasn't injured in that situation either. So there shouldn't be a difference. Like, it was a blatant, horrible thing for Jose Martinez to do, and good on him for apologizing to Castellanos and apologizing to his teammates and his coaching staff. Yeah, he needed to do that, but it doesn't correct it. It needs to be a substantial suspension. 5 is the minimum for me that it needs to start at.
Yeah, you can't rob a bank and then tell the teller, I'm sorry, and expect not to go to jail.
It doesn't change it, yeah.
It doesn't change it.
That wasn't a real gun in my pocket.
Well, and by the way, Castellanos should be fined. I thought his, I'm not going to call it simulation, but the way he embellished, that should be addressed as well. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Castellanos could have been very seriously injured.
Yeah.
He's lucky he wasn't. But the whole rolling around thing, that probably needs to be addressed too. But I'm with you. I mean, if Jose Martinez gets anything less than 3, then I'm going to really have a problem. You'll probably be putting soccer down here on a 10-second delay, because
we're cable. It's all good.
That's right. It should be 5. It should be 5.
5's my minimum. I would even go higher. But 5 is my minimum.
I think this is one of those where you reinforce the previous example, and you've got to go in that. You've got to go in that line, I think.
Yeah, but again, back to your original point, we're going to see Philadelphia again twice. Those comments will not be forgotten. Just as as I mentioned earlier, that little dust up between Tata and Chris Armas in September of 2018 was not forgotten when those teams met again in the playoffs. So if Jim Curtin wants to go to that rhetoric to try to fire his team up and defend them, that's fine. We'll see if that has consequences.
Yeah, it will. It'll add more spice to those games, which is good. Ultimately, it's good. I mean, that's not what Jim Curtin was trying to do. I don't think he put on his marketing hat there and was trying to say something that would liven up the rematch. But yeah, it absolutely will. If I was an ESPN or an FS1, I would be making sure that game is as widely available as possible, because those will be good games, and they'll have extra heat to them now.
They will. And look, again, I want to be very clear. Credit to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I hope they represent MLS well in the semifinal. If it's against Club America, if it's against Portland, I'm assuming it'll be against Club America. Now they're representing the league. It would be very, very good for the league to not only get a team in the final, but win the final. So from this point forward, I really do hope that Philadelphia represents the league well. They absolutely deserve to win this tie. Mm-hmm. They absolutely deserved it. But I think, again, it kind of reminds me of the Club America tie last year, where Atlanta United was very good for long stretches of those 180 minutes. And the final score line of that time may not have reflected that. I feel the same way here. Atlanta United dominated 45 to 55 minutes in Atlanta. Atlanta United had Philadelphia very nervous in the second half last night. So Philadelphia goes through and they deserve it. But I as Darren says, I think Atlanta United bathed themselves in glory with the way that they played in this tie. They played a lot better than the scoreline showed.
Yep. All right, we got stoppage time, so we got to save a little bit of good stuff for that.
I'll probably just repeat everything I said.
That's fine. I might not even remember at that point and take more medicine, so it's all good.
Yeah. Text me the name of your medication, by the way, Jason. I'm intrigued by this. But, we'll be on at 2 o'clock on the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. And we will take your questions, too. So if you have any questions or comments and you want to get in on this discussion, we'll be more than happy to have you at 2 o'clock. It's going to be a lot to get into. And don't forget, too, we've got a big match on Sunday that we're going to preview today. That is a big, big match. And Atlanta United can change the narrative very, very quickly if they go down there to Fort Lauderdale and do what they need to do on Sunday.
Yep. All right, talk to you at 2 o'clock, Mike. Thanks.
All right, feel better, Jason.
Working on it. Getting there.
See you guys.
Be good.
Eventually, able to try to finish the show out like Santiago Sosa was last night, where he was really tired, but kept fighting through it. I want to, I guess, give my thoughts a little bit on Curtin real quick before we jump into other things and finish up. We're not going long today, first off. I don't have that in me. I got a radio interview here at 12:20 and then stoppage time at 2, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get through all that, I think. The line from Curtin about the American coaches and foreign coaches made no sense and had no place in this. That was really unfortunate. If he wants to bring these comments up, it's his right. Like, that's fine. I'm not like horribly offended by him using a word that would get bleeped in places, so I don't care. I don't know why he's getting so hung up on a handshake and like excusing the, if a handshake, because that's the right way to do things, is so important, then why are you excusing Sergio Santos's behavior, which was way over the top in terms of time wasting? It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing at Mercedes-Benz. It was embarrassing last night. You can't have that both ways. You can't do both. You can't say, well, it should be done this way, and you didn't do it this way. What about your team? No, well, that's okay. You can't have both. It's not about things getting lost in translation. It's not about that. Sure, was Heinze yelling at Jim Curtin about Sergio Santos doing something? Yes, because he was right there. It's not Jim Curtin's fault unless he instructed Sergio Santos to do that. I don't know if he did or not. Sergio, after he cramped up coming out of the game too slowly, Sergio wasn't cramping up at that point, to the point that he was, I guess he cramped up when he looked at the sub board and saw that his number was on it, and then he immediately cramped up and collapsed. That's an interesting cramp. I never had that one happen.
It's the Al Chervik moment from Caddyshack with getting hit with the golf ball and going, oh, my arm! One of those.
Now, look, managers do instruct their players to do things about wasting time. It absolutely happens. I've been in locker rooms where that's come up. You have to know situations. Players aren't completely out on their own in this. I don't know if Jim Curtin's instructing Sergio Santos to go as far as he did. Yeah. But take your time in bringing the ball back into play. We have the 3-0 lead coming into this. Take your time where you can. There's no need to rush anything. Stay down. Take time on throw-ins. Have somebody else take the throw. Recycle who's going to take the free kick. Those are all things you talk about. There's nothing wrong with it. You have the lead. You're entitled to do what you want to do. But you can't stand on the this is the right way to do things box when you do that. You kind of lose the right to do that. So, whatever. It will add some spice to it. I'm not like horribly offended. I don't think Jim Curtin's a bad guy or anything like that. I'm just a little surprised that he went there, because I think he's creating something that could come back to bite him when they play later. That's the part. It's just, why do it? It's not really necessary. Chris Armas did not do that about the situation with Tata Martino in 2018. And I think Chris Armas downplayed it too much. If Jim Curtin wants to lean into the feisty Philly guy here, that's fine. That would probably be something that would play well with the fan base. And there's nothing wrong with that. But people will react to it. Chris Armas, I thought, tried to walk things back after the handshake deal in 2018 to the point that it made him look a little weak, and he didn't need to do that.
Right.
Tata Martino didn't want to shake his hand. He was ticked off about it. That's fine. Tata Martino, in my opinion, misinterpreted something that Chris Armas was doing. I don't think Chris Armas was trying to show him up. I think Chris Armas was playing to his fans. It was his first really big win at Red Bull Arena that day. Cool. Tata took it as something offensive to him. Okay. That's fine. Same thing here. I mean, Gabriel Heinze was offended by the way that Philadelphia acted. Okay. Jim Curtin said it wasn't a big deal. Okay. They have a difference of opinion. It's not the end of the world. The name calling was a little much. But again, these are all adults. Be curious to see what happens in the questions coming into the first time they play each other. But it's not the biggest thing here. It's just absolutely not the biggest thing here at all. It will be when they play, because I can guarantee you that Curtin will be asked multiple times about his comments here, and Gabriel Heinze will be asked multiple times about the comments here when they face each other again. And that should be a great match, and it should be on national TV because it's big time. Good brawl, good fight, good hatred. It's good.
Rah!
It's good. You need storylines.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with it. Just
do.
like David Ochoa kicking the ball into the stands in Minnesota and everybody getting on their high horses about that either way. Like, yeah, we need these things. It's not a problem. I'm not too worried about it.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Some other things before we finish up with a few tweets and a few questions. Let's see. Where are we here? So we talked about Toronto losing 1-0 last night. I'm with Chris Armas on this. I think they fought hard. He should be proud of his team. They made it difficult for Cruz Azul. That's the most you can ask for. Cruz Azul is the best team in Mexico by a good margin over the rest of the pack, bar Club America. So this Cruz Azul team's the best team in the tournament, in my opinion. And this Toronto team is not the best team in the tournament, not as they're currently constructed with the injuries and not having Pozuelo, not having Soteldo yet. They fought. They made it difficult. That's the best you can ask for. Can Portland do more at the Estadio Azteca today against Club America? I'd love to see it. Club America is right there with Cruz Azul, so it's going to be difficult. They will have Jeremy Abobasi back for this match. We'll see if he plays, probably off the bench would be my assumption. We'll see what that looks like. And in Columbus going to Monterrey, Caleb Porter's wallet is a little bit lighter. He was fined for his comments about the referees last week, and he should have been. He went into a place that he should not have went to because he started to question integrity and create storylines about things that haven't even happened, about a Mexican referee and all that stuff. Like, no. Like, no, Caleb. You got screwed by the VAR. I agree with that. But you need to stop with where you were going. And you got fined. Some other stuff from around the league. Alexandre Pato is going to miss 3 to 6 weeks. Arthroscopic procedure on the right knee after the injury against Atlanta on April 17th. Probably won't be back until after the June break. June 19th is the one that they're kind of targeting as the earliest for his return. Might be early July. Dallas is going to open up their whole stadium starting June 19th. They're going to stay at 50% capacity until then. So after that international break, they'll come back and the whole stadium will be available. There were a lot of questions for the NWSL Challenge Cup final earlier in the week. It sounded like the governor was not going to allow them to have more fans. That has changed. Ann Peterson of the AP reported last night that Governor Brown in Oregon is lifting the coronavirus restrictions statewide. Fans will be allowed at the Challenge Cup final. Ticket information is not out yet, so stay tuned on that one. Really interesting after some of our conversations over the last few weeks. Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, let's get the right quote here. Reforms that need to be seriously considered. Salary caps, caps on transfer fees, caps on agent fees, limit the maximum number of players on rosters with a requirement for a minimum of homegrown players, Limit the number of games a player can play in a season, along with minimum rest days between games, reductions in the maximum number of teams in leagues, and the introduction of playoffs. Wow, that sounds like MLS. People are going to riot because they said that the Super League sounded like MLS, and some of these things need to be done. They need to be done. Uncle No Pockets, it was Ann Peterson from the Associated Press who reported that. And I was a little confused by it too, because the initial reporting on Oregon was that, and Ann's in Portland. She's based in Portland. The initial reporting was the other way, that they had told the teams no, they would not be allowing any changes, and to the point that the game might have been played elsewhere because of that. I don't know. I was surprised by it too when I saw it, so I'm still trying to get some clarification. That seems to have gone both ways, and I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. The Gianni Infantino comments will definitely get people going. It was an interview with L'Equipe in France. I do like that they're talking about reforms, and that was one of the things that I kept pounding the pavement on, about needing to not just be mad about Super League and look at actually some of the reasons why and some of the things that need to be fixed and made better in the game. So let's see if it happens. But if you want some reading and you want to dig into some things that might make some purists angry, look at Gianni Infantino in L'Equipe. Manchester City's in the Champions League final for the first time in club history. Who will join them, Real Madrid or Chelsea? It's today. There's no Rafael Varane. There is Marcelo, a second substitute, stepped up and got him out of the duty for being at the polling station a little early, so he was able to join. An older woman who was the second substitute offered to replace him, so he was able to get home and travel to London with his teammates in the nick of time. Federico Valverde is not going to be part of it. He is. He finally tested negative for COVID after a long time where he kept testing positive. Marcelo could start because everybody is hurt. Danny Carvajal and Lucas Vasquez are out. This feels like Chelsea's got to get it done.
Plus 125 for Chelsea in the juice boxes. This is just today's result only. Your draw's a plus 236, and Real Madrid's about the same at about a plus 239.
Ricky Ricardo's like, I told you it was going to change about Marcelo. Hey, Ricky, what if that second substitute was a Barcelona fan? Then it might not have changed. She might have been like, nah, I'm good. Work your time, Marcelo. Ha ha ha. But luckily, she was very kind, and Marcelo got to leave in the nick of time. UEFA's approved 26 player squads for the Euros this summer. Good with that. David Luiz is being linked to an unnamed MLS club.
Inter Miami?
I mean, can they sign another old European defender?
I'm just going down that road.
You're trying to create a narrative, John.
The end of the show.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. CBS Sports reported that he was linked to an unnamed MLS club. I would really stay away from that one. He is being linked to Lazio as well, which is odd. Really good story over at DW about Mainz in Germany, and recommended to go check that out. DW, if you are a non-German speaker, and you want to learn more about the German game, it's a really good source, and they have an English site. It's dw.com/en, and then you can go into the sports section and dig into it. But what Mainz has done is really impressive with how they finished. And I think it gets lost in the shuffle a little bit because, they're not going to win the title. But 28 points from a possible 42 is where they're at currently. If you played that way, they would be in Europe. They'd be in European qualification spots. That's impressive. They had 7 points before that. It was bad. They should be safe. They've put themselves into a situation where they might be able to survive here. They are 12th on 35 points. Köln is in the playoff spot on 29. So 6 points. They should be fine. They got a draw on Monday, which was big for them. They should be all right. But it's really impressive what they have done on their fourth coach of the season, I think.
Yeah, fourth.
Bo Svensson. He's got to get a lot of credit. And he did it, and I think what DW pointed out that I really liked was it wasn't short-termism. It wasn't Big Samism. It was, we're going to have a long-term vision here. We're going to build to something. Yes, we're going to try to get results now as well, but we're going to build. We're not just going to sit back and park the bus and hope we can get lucky in games. They haven't, and they've done a good job, and they should be all right. Very curious to see what Roma looks like under Jose Mourinho. Really, really curious. The news on Paulo Fonseca had come out early on Tuesday that he would leave at the end of the season. Then it's like immediately followed with Jose's coming. 3-year deal.
I think he's making £6.5 million a season.
I mean, good for him. Like, they're not going to have a lot of money in the transfer market. So he's going to have to coach up the guys that he has, and I think at times that has been a weakness for him. I thought his mentality had changed at Tottenham. It ultimately didn't. He reverted pretty quick to like the usual internal drama that always seems to happen with him. Is it going to be any better in Rome? I don't know. Maurizio Sarri would have been a better hire, in my opinion, at this point. So now if you're Tottenham, get the cigarettes back out. Make the offer. Bring in Maurizio Sarri. But Tottenham is reportedly Daniel Levy seeking talks with Roberto Martinez, with Nuno Espirito Santo. Also, according to Corriere dello Sport in Italy, they have made contact with Gianpiero Gasperini of Atalanta, which is a fascinating one, if that is true.
Yeah.
That would be very, very interesting. I don't know if they can pull that one off. But yeah, if you can get to that level, okay, we're having a different conversation. I don't think it'll happen. They should go after Maurizio Sarri. Maurizio Sarri, come on, let's do this.
That'd be awesome.
Oof. Okay, couple of other things before we go, and I take more medicine, which is always fun.
Yes.
No away supporters will be permitted in the Premier League when they allow a limited number of supporters for the final 2 weeks of the season. So no away fans, all home fans. Limited capacity after May 17th. That's when they're trying to ease lockdown restrictions in England. The last 2 weeks of the season. They consulted with the clubs. They agreed that matches would not be open to away supporters. This is going to be tricky for England right now, schedule-wise, after the postponement of the Manchester United-Liverpool game, which John talked about on Soccer Over There on Monday night. There's not really an easy spot to make this game up. Manchester United, if they get to the Europa League final, they're already playing midweek, May 18th, 19th. Like there's nowhere. There's nowhere for them to go. So, I mean, what are you going to do? I don't know. And for Manchester United, sure, they're in second place. They're pretty well locked into second place. Not really too big of a deal for them. For Liverpool, it's massive. It's absolutely massive. So how is this going to get sorted out? I do not know. The other thing, and thank you, Ricky Ricardo, for throwing this one in, it's really, really stupid for Jens Lehmann in our Racism Down Here section for saying what he said to get fired from, I believe he was a member of their board, their supervisory board, on behalf of an investor group. This all started when Jurgen Klinsmann walked away in February of 2020. Jens Lehmann, it was a screenshot of a racist WhatsApp message that Lehmann sent to Dennis Eogo, who is a former German international, pundit for Sky Germany. Lehmann, in the message that went to Eogo, which Eogo said, I don't think this was intended for me. Right. Lehmann said, is Dennis actually a German word for token black person? Yeah, you're fired. Yep, you're fired. You're not working in football again. Simple as that, Jens. There's no other way around it. You're an idiot. Bye. See ya. I mean, there's nothing else. He admitted a message came from his phone. He apologized. He complimented his work. Yippee, skippy, whatever. You were sending a message to somebody to say something that is horribly racist.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. We'll see you later. Except we won't. And that's good. I'm glad Hertha reacted quickly. I'm glad there was no arguing back and forth. I'm glad this was sorted out quickly. Good job, Hertha Berlin. Jens Lehmann, you're an idiot.
Yes.
No other way around it.
Nope. Absolutely right there with you on all of that. Completely and totally agree.
Yep. Couple other elements here. Lionel Messi and his rallying the troops lunch on Monday is now being investigated because it was against coronavirus
protocols,
restrictions.
Yes.
It was against the restrictions set out by Catalonia's regional government. The players, they're trying to get around it, saying, well, we're all in the same bubble. And then people say, well, no, your partners, your girlfriends, your wives were there as well, and they're not part of the same bubble, except they live with somebody in the bubble. So are they really part of the bubble or are they not? It's still breaking the protocols, and the players could get fined. They're not going after the club because this was a players thing, but yeah, they could get fined, and they probably should. And should have known better.
Yes.
Saying it was a work lunch or whatever, and I mean, is it against the protocols, yes or no? It sounds like it's against the protocols, so cut a check, be done with it.
Yes.
Like, is it the worst thing in the world? No, they didn't go out and do this in a public setting and have a bunch of people crowding around and all that. No, they did it at Lionel Messi's house. It's stupid, but, it was a lunch. It wasn't Weston McKennie's party with cars of girls showing up.
Yeah.
It wasn't that, at least. So
it wasn't the Kyle Walker party or anything
no,
like that.
It was not the Kyle Walker party, but it was stupid.
Yes.
If it was worth it, and it could be because you're trying to rally the troops for the game against Atleti this weekend, which Ronald Koeman right now is going to be suspended for. Barca's appeal of his suspension has been turned down so far. They could take it to Spain's Sports Administrative Court, but Lionel Messi was trying to rally the troops, and if he's got to cut a check and other people who were there got to cut a check to make that happen, well, that's where you're at. Mazzano says what's stupid is people getting fined for having a private event, which, yeah, I mean, I agree. There are still protocols and restrictions and lockdowns, Like, it's not on the same scale for outrage for me as Kyle Walker or Weston McKennie or those things. But if you broke the protocols, you got to pay the price. Well, that's just what it is. Okay, the Costa Rican League has been shut down right now. There's one game left in the next to last round. The last round was coming up this weekend. They have been shut down because of an increase in coronavirus cases. The Minister of Health will make a decision on May 9th about what's next for them. So they've kicked up. You had a bunch of issues all over South America with Libertadores and Sudamericana. It's really hard to encapsulate all of it. Independiente got an incredible result last night in the Sudamericana, considering 12 people had to sleep at the airport. They were stuck at the airport because of the differences between Brazil's entry testing procedures and what CONMEBOL has approved in other places. You had players who had recovered from coronavirus but tested positive on a PCR. And it's like they were cleared to play in the previous round. They went to Bolivia, but they're not cleared by the Brazilian government. But Independiente got a result after dealing with all of that, and it was pretty much madness. Barcelona of Ecuador beat Boca Juniors in Ecuador. That's a big result from last night. Palmeiras went to Buenos Aires and beat Defensa y Justicia 2-1. Good match, but that's a good rivalry. Everybody keeps winning on the other team's stadium between those two. Those games will continue tonight. You've got CONCACAF tonight. Busy schedule of games the rest of the day. Anything you want to touch on before we go, John?
Yeah, a couple of things real quick that have broken while we've been on the air. Men's national team's going back to Rio Tinto. They're going to play a friendly against Costa Rica June 9th. Maximum amount of fans at the ride is 10,000 right now, with protocols in Utah. And something that came out overnight from Maxine Bernstein at the Oregonian, Olivia Moultrie is suing the National Women's Soccer League, challenging the league's refusal to allow her to play due to her age. They have an age rule that sets the minimum at 18.
That's dumb. That's a dumb rule. It's a stupid rule.
Yeah. And
no, it's a really stupid rule. Like, MLS, Freddie Adu was how old?
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Convey was how old? Cade Cowell last year was how old? Cade Cowell's doing pretty well for himself. He couldn't play. He's been in 2 Team of the Weeks. He wouldn't be allowed to play. It's an idiotic rule because it doesn't make any sense anywhere else in the world. Nobody else has that.
Yeah, Moultrie, through her father, says that the age rule violates antitrust law, harms her development as a soccer player, delays the likelihood of her being invited to play on the U.S. women's national team or an Olympic team.
It does all that. I don't know about the antitrust part of it. That's going to be for our lawyer contingent to argue. I don't know that part. But, yeah, she did know that was the rule, I would assume, unless it's a new rule, when she signed. But, yeah, she should absolutely be allowed to play. They should have changed the rule. I don't know why they're holding to it. It's a dumb rule. She's good enough to play. There's nothing different between the women and the men in this regard. She's good enough to play. Let her play. If she's not, then she won't. But there shouldn't be a rule restricting that, unless you're trying to protect the college game, which shouldn't have anything to do with this. I don't get it. So change the rule in WSL, and both. You're going to have to pay her some money, because you're affecting her career.
League has argued the age limit has been in place since 2013 and doesn't violate law because the league is a, quote, single entity that can't conspire with itself for antitrust purposes.
I could care less about your antitrust argument. It's a dumb rule. Change it.
And Olivia and her father are urging a judge to take immediate action by granting a temporary restraining order declaring the rule unlawful so she can play in regular season games for the National League, which starts on the 15th.
Yeah, she should be allowed to. But if the rule was in place before she signed, she knew that too, and that's the part I don't really get is then why sign? So that there is confusion on that element of it, but if she's good enough to play, she should play. There's no way around that. That's dumb.
All right, there you go.
Okay, and that's going to do it because I need more medicine. So
Yes.
Thanks for bearing with us the last few days. Thanks for hanging out today. Thanks for the interaction. Ricky, one more thing from Ricky Ricardo. Fox announced yesterday that they will have a lot of the CONMEBOL English language stuff, Copa Americas, women's World Cup qualifiers. Not the men's, though, because some of that's already been sold. I hope they eventually can grab some of it. That's the one missing piece here. But, yes, Fox is going big time into national team stuff out of South America, which is great. And they were very excited about it yesterday with Copa America, then the Gold Cup, almost like one going into the other.
The summer of soccer.
Summer of soccer. Yeah, it's going to be fun, and hopefully my sinuses make it to the summer of soccer, because right now they're trying to explode from my head. So I'm going to go try to put my sinuses back in my nose and face. So you guys have a good rest of the day. I'll be back for stoppage time, unless my sinuses fall out between now and then. Mucha platio.
Mucha platio.